for millions of people, breakfast is the most destructive meal of the day. So you've heard it since you were a kid. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But what if that's the very reason you're stuck in a fat-storing, craving-driven, insulin-spiking nightmare? Because for millions of people, breakfast is the most metabolically destructive meal of the day. And it's not just about calories, it's about timing, insulin, and hormonal sabotage. So let's go ahead and break it down. Welcome, everyone, to the Obesity Project. My name is Dr. Mark Shankman. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon who has an interest in treating your whole body, not just your mouth. And today, episode 95, breakfast is not the most important meal. It's the most dangerous. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about how the breakfast myth took over. So the idea that breakfast is essential didn't come from science. It came from marketing. So Kellogg's funded campaigns in the early 1900s to promote cereal as a moral, healthy start to start the day. But what is the truth? The truth is something entirely different. So in BMJ 2019, there was a review of randomized controlled trials which found no consistent benefit to eating breakfast for weight loss or metabolic health. And in some cases, breakfast eaters gained more weight. But it's not just that breakfast isn't helpful, it's actually harmful. So breakfast equals morning insulin spikes. So most breakfast foods are high carb, low protein, low fat, processed, as you can see right behind me. So things like yogurt parfait, oatmeal with fruit, whole grain toast with jam, fruit smoothies or juices. So what do they all do? Well, the one thing they definitely do is they all spike glucose or blood sugar. They all spike insulin, and they block fat burning for hours upon hours upon hours. Because remember, in high insulin situations, your body is being told to store that energy away as either glycogen in the muscle and liver or as fat in your adipose tissues, your fat cells. So there was a study in diabetes care in 2018 which demonstrated that carbohydrate-rich breakfasts lead to higher postprandial glucose, which is after eating glucose levels, and insulin responses, especially in insulin-resistant individuals. So as an analogy, this is like lighting your metabolism on fire, then throwing water on it before it can do its job. So let's talk about how the domino effect of a bad breakfast really sets the day in motion. So when you spike insulin in the morning, several things happen. One, your blood sugar crashes a few hours later. You get hangry, you get tired and distracted. You crave carbs at lunch. You overeat, then crash again. And by dinner, you're just trying to survive the glucose roller coaster ride that you've been on all day. So in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition back in 2020, they demonstrated that skipping or delaying breakfast improved metabolic markers and reduced total daily insulin exposure. So definitely some good things that we want to avoid, right? So let's talk about the better way to start your day. So if you want to improve metabolic health, you want to do several things. First, you want to eat your meal later. Intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating is a huge benefit and will definitely make a difference in the waistline. You want to prioritize protein and fat, things like eggs, steak, and even just coffee with butter. These will provide you protein and fat, maybe not the coffee and butter, but not as much as the other two. But you want to prioritize those things or eat what I like to call and other people have termed savory breakfasts. Thirdly, you want to eliminate those processed carbs, like you see behind me. These things are delicious. Don't get me wrong. I love them too. But they are toxic, and you need to eliminate these to get off that glucose roller coaster. And then one of the other things you can do is skip breakfast altogether and eat when you're actually hungry. So there was a study in Cell Metabolism in 2019 which showed that early time restricted feeding, such as eating between like 11 a.m. and 6 p.m., so a 6 or a 7 hour window, improved insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, and appetite regulation, even without weight loss. So it does those things despite you not even necessarily losing weight. Maybe you're just trying to maintain. So here are some practical options that you can do starting right now. First thing you can do is skip breakfast altogether and eat your first meal around noontime. And that's typically what I try to do when I'm intermittent fasting. Since I started carnivore, I haven't done as much intermittent fasting because the carnivore diet is sort of a fasting mimicking diet in that you're not getting any carbohydrate. However, I just got my kids off to college this last week. I was off traveling across the country and driving a lot. Drove 6, 7 hours at a pop, flew across country. So one kid, I'm in Phoenix. One kid was out in Virginia. The other kid was about 3 hours north here and started off about 6 hours away from here prior to driving her to school. So it became very, very difficult for me to eat properly or eat a full carnivore diet. And so I wound up eating a lot of carbs along the way because carbs are everywhere, right? So it's very hard to actually avoid the carbs if you're not meal prepping and not taking care of your grocery shopping and making your meals. So once I got back from the school vacation or driving the kids to school and flying them to school, then I got back onto my carnivore diet over the weekend and starting today. Actually, I started yesterday, started intermittent fasting again until noon just to jumpstart that weight loss and jumpstart the metabolism kind of kicking back into fat burning mode. So again, going back to those practical options, got off on a nice tangent there. Skip breakfast and eat your first meal around noon, or eat a high protein, low carbohydrate breakfast. So things like eggs and bacon, steak or avocado, coffee with butter or MCT oil. So these are the simple things that you can do for yourself. So remember, you've got to get off the roller coaster ride. You've got to start thinking about the types of foods that you're putting into your body. So this has been episode 95 of the Obesity Project. Breakfast is not the most important meal. It's the most dangerous. So you don't need more willpower. You need fewer insulin spikes. That's what you really need. And breakfast, it's the one meal that sets the tone for the rest of the day. And unfortunately, for most people, it sets the tone in the wrong manner. It sets the tone going in the wrong direction. You don't want this stuff because this stuff is going to get you hungry very, very quickly and start that roller coaster ride. So do things like skip the cereal, ditch the juice, and don't be afraid to skip the meal entirely. Because if fat loss, mental clarity, and metabolic health matter to you, then it is time to rethink your morning routine. So don't forget, here on the Obesity Project, we're cutting through the myths and we're getting to the root. So coming up next, stay tuned for episode 96. Is fasting helping your hormones or wrecking them? We'll unpack how fasting affects cortisol, testosterone, insulin, and hunger, and why women and men might respond differently. So stay tuned for that. Once again, thank you so much for watching. As I say every day when I shoot my videos, that I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. Make sure to keep staying tuned. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification. And like, share, and comment. Let's keep the conversation going. I'd love to hear from you guys. Any questions you may have, Any comments, positive or negative, we can get into it. That's no problem. I'm passionate about what I talk about, and so if you have a disagreement with me, you kind of look at things a little bit differently. That's perfectly fine. What we're trying to do is create a dialogue. What we're trying to do is get this information out, have a conversation, two-way conversation, and make sure that people are finding out how nutrition really works. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.